before she returned to UK, not to go to the press about what happened. Southern contends that she had reached out to law enforcement back in the UK, but was told by an investigation could only proceed in Romania, where she believed the Tate said the police paid off. She was also sent to a women's hospital to get a report on the alleged assault about a week later, but she remained in touch with Tate, who she alleges continued to send veiled threats before finally offering an apology of sorts. Setting up a conservative media outlet as a front for pro-Kremlin propaganda. The media outlet was unnamed in the indictment, but it was clear from the details within the changes that it referred to Tenant Media, founded in 2023 by the Canadian influencer known as Lauren Chen and her husband, Liam Donovan. Amongst those that they hired last year was Chen's longtime friend and occasional collaborator, Lauren Southern, another Canadian far-right influencer with a massive social media following. In a few short months after it operated, the outlet produced a steady stream of content favorable to Donald Trump, including an appearance by his daughter-in-law, Laura Trump. Since the indictment was made public, several Tenant Media collaborators have come forward to claim that they were unaware of how the company was funded. These allegations clearly showed that I and other commentators were the victims of the scheme. Dave Rubin, a right-wing pundit with 2.45 million YouTube subscribers, wrote on X, formerly known as Twitter. But Southern and Chen have yet to speak publicly. Reached by phone on Thursday, Chen told the CBC, "We're not commenting on it at this time." Southern did not respond to email. Southern did release a single statement on her Twitter and then disappeared. Stopped putting videos up on the YouTube, stopped doing the live streams, stopped everything, stopped posting on the socials, and then just went away. I didn't know, I think Lauren Chen probably is going to maybe try a comeback, but she's gonna have to wait a while. She's got too much legal problems. She's at the forefront of this. She could be the only person that actually faces real consequences for this entire scandal taking place. In terms of Lauren Southern, she's done this before. I don't know if all of you remember a couple years ago before Destiny resurrected her career, but she effectively disappeared for a long time, and I think during that time she was having a child and raising a child, and then returned to say that she feels that there was far too much extremism on both sides, that she was going to be kind of more of a centrist now, that she wasn't going to be pushing so much, I guess, far-right white supremacist and white nationalist propaganda, which is wild because it was now is the time when a lot of the shit that she had been working for and pushing for Americans, even though she's a Canadian, but pushing for Americans, kind of started to manifest itself. You're living under one of the most white supremacist regimes that has ever happened in the US right now, so it's kind of wild that now, of all times, is the time when she kind of disappeared from the scene. Broader conservative apparatus. Born in Quebec and raised in Hong Kong, Lauren Chen rose to fame as a YouTuber under the moniker Roaming Millennial. She was outspoken supporter of Trump in the 2016 election and an eager soldier in the early years of the culture wars. She's situated as part of a broader conservative apparatus that seeks to instill social and cultural values that align with certain interests concerning anti-immigration, anti-LGBTQ+, and anti-feminism. Same thing that you can find basically ties a lot of these groups together. Same thing with Lauren Southern. Since Tenant Media began publishing content, Southern has produced several videos for the outlet focusing on Canadian issues. Their titles range: Canada is becoming a communist hellhole, which compares Canada to the USSR, and Mean Treats equals life in prison for Canada, which criticizes the proposed Online Harm Act. If you think naively that the Russians don't care as much about influencing Canadian thought, penetrating the Canadian government at all levels, I'm here to tell you they care deeply about shaping how you think, how you vote, and sowing chaos and discord, said Richard Fadden, former director of the CSIS. Canada's basically CIA and FBI merged together. Southern, who grew up in BC, was one of the early stars of the alt-right movement, known for her videos in which she confronted progressive activists. She also traveled widely and made connections with far-right movements in Europe, South Africa, and Australia, helping circulate extremist ideas more widely. Southern was an early proponent of the Great Replacement conspiracy theory, which holds that the white majority populations are being replaced by radicalized migrants, usually Muslim migrants, and usually this conspiracy also has anti-Semitic overtones, that the cabal of Jewish elites who control the world are effectively trying to change voter demographics by bringing in, Muslims and other stuff like that to other countries, and it's been cited by several far-right terrorists. The theory has been seen as fringe, something that might only find in the dark corners of the internet, but today it's now quite mainstream and to some extent a popular idea, in large part due to the work of Lauren Southern and Tucker Carlson, by the way, both effectively working to normalize the idea of white genocide, white replacement, conspiracy theories, and stuff like that. On Thursday, Public Safety Minister Dominic LeBlanc said the government was working with the U.S. on this serious matter. Any Canadians who illegally assist in Russia's persistent attempts to use disinformation, criminal and covert facilities, and corruption to activities and corruption to undermine their sovereignty and democratic processes will face the full force of the Canadian law. We have not seen an adversary attempt to influence an American election to this degree ever before. Fadden warned that despite the focus and the impact of the Russian propaganda on the U.S. election, Canadians are not immune to the influence of disinformation campaigns. The Russian oligarchs' overarching objective is has increased the discontent in our institutions and institutions in all Western countries. There's no rational reason that I can think of why Canada would be exempt. So that was back in the day. And fast forward to now, Lauren Southern is silent up until today, where she comes forward and makes this post. Good morning. Time to pour gasoline on what's left of my reputation and strike the match. All for a cause I shouldn't have committed to a long time ago. The truth. This is not real life. It is a memoir about the total unfiltered chaos behind the scenes of my time in the media. From an evangelical upbringing and a steady diet of Fox News, to going viral and playing my part in media disinformation, to meeting with terrorists, neo-Nazis, intelligence agents, and political crime rings. There's coke binges, MDMA diplomacy with enemies, a nuclear-grade marriage meltdown, and a trail of scandals across 5 continents. I was arrested in Turkey and Morocco, got banned in the UK, and maybe violated international sanctions. Finally, a psychotic break, addiction, and the dark art of conspiracies. If you're someone I met along the way and you're thinking, wait, am I in this book? Relax. Unless you committed a crime or did something genuinely insane, you're probably fine. If anything, I'm the one under the microscope. I still have no idea how much trouble I'll be in with the government, let alone with everyone else, for publishing this. I guess we'll find out. No, I won't be doing interviews. Don't ask. I wrote this book to claw my way back to relevancy, and I hope that it helps you to do the same. With nothing but love, Lauren. Here's the link to go buy it. Now, I won't be buying it because I don't want to support a white supremacist in her attempts to once again rebrand. She's done this numerous times before. Eventually, I'm sure enough people will read the book and come out with some of the stories that she's talking about other people. And today, the one that unfortunately I have to tell and talk to you about is Andrew Tate, who she accuses of having sexually assaulted and physically assaulted her. I want to be completely clear. Multiple things can be true at once. Lauren Southern can be an absolutely abhorrent and grotesque and horrifying white supremacist who has both furthered white supremacist conspiracy theories and done a unbelievable amount of damage in both, promoting and normalizing white supremacist movements internationally, both in Europe, domestically, in Canada, and the United States. She's a horrifying figure, and until she even begins to acknowledge her part in any of that and work towards undoing it, there's absolutely nothing to be found in terms of, oh, wait, though, so she's a good person now? That can be completely true. Also, Andrew Tate is a fucking monster. Not a single person, no matter how horrifying they are, deserves to be physically and sexually assaulted. If more people come forward to tell their stories about how Andrew Tate has physically or sexually assaulted, the safer other survivors and victims can feel and come forward with their own stories. So from Rolling Stone, alt-right YouTuber Lauren Southern alleges in her memoir that Andrew Tate sexually assaulted her. Lauren Southern, the Canadian YouTuber who was once a rising star of the far right, thanks to her hardline anti-immigrant and anti-feminist views, but later retreated from the scene, has alleged in her new self-published memoir, This Is Not Real Life, that she was sexually assaulted and by embattled misogynist and influencer Andrew Tate in 2018 when she was 22 years old. The accusation, detailed in excerpts Southern shared today on her Substack page, adds to the already lengthy list of allegations of rape and human trafficking against Tate and his brother Tristan, some of which have resulted in criminal prosecutions. The pair successfully blocked an indictment in Romania, where they live, from going to trial, but currently face further investigations by authorities in the country. Once those proceedings conclude, they will face criminal charges in the UK that include human trafficking and rape. The brothers deny all the accusations against them. The Tate's attorney, Joseph D. McBride, shared in a statement about his claims in Southern's book on X, quote, Andrew Tate unequivocally repudiates the pathetic filth peddled by Lauren Southern in her pitiable tome, This Is Not Real Life. Why do you talk like him? Maybe that makes sense. A washed-up nobody loser memoir, if ever there was one, he wrote. No evidence supports her claims. He called the publication for the free excerpts on her Substack a marketing ploy. Tate himself has not publicly acknowledged the new allegations. In the chapters published on her Substack, Southern describes traveling from the UK with the British Islamophobic activist Tommy Robinson to Romania around February 2018 to meet the Tates and their team about a supposed opportunity to launch a new right-wing media venture with the siblings' investment. Nervous about their lack of preparation for a pitch, and because, as she alleges, Robinson was heavily impaired by cocaine and he managed to smuggle aboard the plane. So wait, sorry, Tommy Robinson is also accused of being a drug smuggler, crossing borders with illegal substances. Is he ever going to face any consequences for any of his actions? to meet with the Tates and their team about a supposed opportunity to launch a right-wing media venture, blah, blah, blah. Robinson was heavily impaired by cocaine, and he managed to smuggle aboard the plane. Southern recalls being surprised at the Tates, whom she did not know at the time, when they turned up at the airport in Bucharest. Two sharply dressed men leaned against polished sports cars, she writes, saying they stood out like sore thumbs because of the washed-out Balkan backdrop. Andrew drove Southern to a dinner for just the two of them at the steakhouse. She claims she was excessively complimentary of her work, flirtatious, and even somewhat charming. She notes they really did get along during these conversations, though eventually, she adds, things started to feel off. Later, she, Robinson, and their video team were taken off to the Tate's compound, which Southern describes as a building that looked like it had been designed by an edgy Reddit mod and anime nerds turned marine condo minimalist fanatics, with an imposing samurai statue for decoration and a small army of, quote, crypto bros studying market fluctuations on their computer screens. It almost seems like the brothers were the muscle and the drivers, while the crypto guys were the ones doing the actual work, she writes. Southern says that the meeting about a potential new company with the Tates and their chief crypto partner was a complete bust, despite her efforts to refocus the conversation and compensate for Robinson's erratic behavior. The group returned to their hotel convinced that they had blown it, but then the Tates messaged that they wanted to talk more with Southern. She returned to the compound where she claims that Andrew demanded a photo with her and posed with a hand wrapped around her waist like had been dating for years. Instead of discussing business, she alleges that the brothers whisked her to a nearby nightclub, assuring her that they would also send cars to bring Robinson and the other members of the crew along. But in her traveling companions never arrived, Southern alleged that she had one cocktail and a shot of liquor before feeling nauseatingly drunk and having someone carry her to a bathroom where she vomited. At that point, she claims Ari carried her to a car, drove her back to the hotel, and then carried her up to her room. There, Southern alleges that Tate asked her to sleep beside him on the bed, to which she agreed. While being incredibly intoxicated, she adds, he kissed me. I wasn't expecting it, I wasn't looking for it, but I kissed him back briefly, and then he told me that I wanted to sleep. I was extraordinarily tired. He wanted to go further. I said no, very clearly, multiple times, and I tried to pull his hands off of me. He put his arm around my neck and began strangling me unconscious. I tried to fight back. He repeatedly strangled me every single time I regained enough consciousness to pull at his arms. I'd prefer not to share the rest, but it's pretty obvious. This wasn't a case of mixed signals or intoxicated blurred lines, Southern writes. I fought back, I was pleading, I just didn't realize that there was a point of no return, a moment for where my voice would no longer have any power. Years later, she would read a Vice News report about how Tate had been arrested on suspicion of rape in the UK. In 2015, she alleged that one victim telling the outlet that Tate had strangled her on multiple occasions and that she'd seen him choke another woman around 10 times. Southern found this claim of repeated asphyxiation consistent with her own story. In the aftermath of the alleged assault, Southern explains that she tried to minimize the incident in part because she felt that her anti-feminist brand precluded her from coming forward as a victim. I wouldn't have believed another woman who made these exact set of claims, she claims. She admits. Tate, she claims, warned her before she returned to UK not to go to the press about what happened. Southern contends that she had reached out to law enforcement back in the UK, but was told by an investigation could only proceed in Romania, where she believed the Tate said the police paid off. She was also sent to a women's hospital to get a report on the alleged assault about a week later, but she remained in touch with Tate, who she alleges continued to send veiled threats before finally offering an apology of sorts. In the following year, Southern announced her retirement from activism, indicating she wanted to turn her attention to academia and in-person relationships. Then the far-right troll Milo Yiannopoulos published a piece smearing her, asserting that Southern had been a secret leftist all along and sexually manipulating unnamed men in order to advance her career as a political commentator. Southern claims she too got word that Tate was telling his private online networks that he was one of the sources in Yiannopoulos' piece, and was joking that he'd never have any intention of funding the media projects he and Robinson tried to pitch in Bucharest, writing in a group chat message, "Do pimps give girls money?" Southern claims she later realized that Tate had messaged her on social media a year before they'd been introduced, and that she had occasionally corresponded with him like any other fan, and she had connected the dots when they came face to face. She was left wondering if Robinson was on a setup to make her available to Tate. Was I trafficked? She writes, what the fuck? While Tate rose to fame as the, quote, top G by doling out toxic advice on masculinity to young men, Southern said she found herself disillusioned with right-wing movements that she had supported in her staunchly xenophobic content, seeing how it held women to an impossible standard while men reveled in hypocrisy. Quote, you get endless monologues from self-styled truth sellers insisting that men are supposedly to sleep around while women must remain chaste, and that's not completely antithetical to the conservative religious and family values the space generally claims to champion, she observed. Yet, Southern concludes, I don't hate Andrew. She expressed the belief that he might yet change as a person, writing, I hope he becomes the soul he could have been instead of the one consumed by his vices. Whether behind bars or free, I don't think that he's ever realized he's been consumed. Like so many in his position, he's likely never let himself dig in that deep because there's too much pain waiting there. So that's the story that came out today about the entire thing that took place. Again, I mean, Yeah, it's absolutely fucked to hear firsthand accounts of Andrew Tate allegedly drugging and raping people again, as there are now so many fucking accounts of Andrew Tate allegedly strangling, physically assaulting, sexually trafficking, manipulating, violently beating, and being the worst and cruelest and most horrifying monster you could possibly imagine. Not to mention someone who, for the longest time, most right-wing figures were more than fine to play fast and loose with, right? Like, you know, Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, all of them had this phase, including Matt Walsh, where they were basically being like, I don't agree with everything he says. Very uncouth. I think he says some pretty, despicable things. But we have to admit that no one else is talking about how men aren't masculine anymore. And that's important. And we need to talk about how men, they should not feel ashamed of their masculinity. And, they all have videos to that effect. Those videos are not deleted. They're not taken down. They're still up there. You can go watch the videos where every one of these right-wing pundits was fine championing aspects of Andrew Tate while still at the same time being like, some of the stuff he says, I agree, is gross. But this is important. Masculinity and him championing it, and he's really popular, so we should focus on that. And then as more information came out that he in fact was, a pedophile monster, human trafficking rapist, serial fucking disgusting ass creature, you'd think at that point more people would be like, okay, well fuck, we need to just absolve ourselves at the very least and come forward and be like, I would like to retract my previous statements saying that there were possibly some positive elements to this man. He is a monster. He is on camera admitting to having sex with a 16-year-old when he was an adult. He's on camera admitting to grooming a minor for years and having sex with her when he was again of age. That's a completely separate series of videos in which he has said that out loud. This is just like a matter of fact. Like, these are the things that actually exist for us to witness at any point. That's in addition to the women who have accused him of sexually assaulting them in the UK, the women who have accused him of being, trafficked by him, in Romania. There's just accusation after accusation after accusation. Is now going to be the point where any of them take this seriously, that is coming from a far-right, white supremacist, alt-right figure like Lauren Southern? Is Lauren Southern going to finally be the voice that comes forward that has at least one right-wing pundit now admit that, yeah, this is all supremely fucked up? Because I've seen this in the inverse. I've seen, like, people be like, oh, the leftists, all of you are just obsessed with purity testing, gatekeeping, and all that kind of stuff. And as soon as someone is revealed to have done something in their past, all of you just jump on them. It's because I think on the left, we care and take this shit seriously, or at least pretend to care and take this shit seriously, or at least overtly will say, this is wrong. This is fucked. These powerful and rich men in positions, once again, whether it be Epstein, whether it be Diddy, whether it be fucking Andrew Tate or Tristan Tate, all these men in positions of power with wealth and, again, armies of people online willing to defend them, seem to be able to get away with horrifying crimes on a repeated basis because a lot of people on that side of the aisle either also engage in acts of pedophilia, acts of sexual assault, or actively cover it up. So yeah, when something on the left happens and you get, say, an Andrew Callahan, someone who was accused by multiple women of sexual assault, you'll find that a lot of people on the left are like, oh my god, this fucking hurts, I'm broken, I can't believe this, I love this content, that's just such a fucking tragedy, I hope he goes the route of doing, restorative justice. Spoiler alert, he did not. But at this point, I will be obviously taking down any collaborations I had with him, or I will no longer ever be working with him again. Believe the victims, please promote their stories. Here's the links to their GoFundMe's if they have them, stuff like that. Yeah, that does happen because at least on the surface, I'm not saying that there is any one particular political group that is completely devoid of this. There isn't. We've learned that it doesn't matter if you are a communist, an anarchist, a fascist, any political ideology that you have, a liberal, a conservative, a libertarian, very frequently occurring with the libertarians for some reason, that might be something to look into one day, or you are a nihilist. Any group that you are a part of, there seems to be a problem with overwhelmingly being straight cis men are sexually assaulting women, and other straight cis men are covering up, or just men in general are covering it up. That seems to be an overwhelming problem across the board in society. like just everywhere, in every kind of work. That was kind of the whole reason why Me Too became something that went beyond simply rich and powerful men in the world of Hollywood, whether that be, you know, Bill Cosby or Harvey Weinstein, into people in all walks of life coming forward with their stories and being like, it seems like there's a very high percentage of women that have experienced sexual assault in their lives, and it seems like the perpetrators almost always in these cases happen to be, again, cis, straight, heterosexual men who face very little accountability, or you know, if we go down the list, for one reason or another, will face protection of some kind. Virgil Texas, yeah, there's a great example. Virgil Texas, what the fuck? Like, there's an example where Virgil Texas and his co-host, you know, he was exposed by someone anonymously on Twitter who came forward and said that Virgil Texas had been grooming her for a very long time, and this was an anonymous Twitter account, the kind of things of which any anonymous Twitter account could be created tomorrow and accuse someone, but it was enough for Virgil Texas to just disappear from the public eye in totality, which goes from you maybe being at first like, I'm going to wait for a statement, but this looks really bad, to, holy shit, oh, then what? If this was 100% without any merit, why did he just disappear? Why was he just suddenly gone? And, you know, his co-host, Brianna Joy Gray, put a post on Patreon being like many of you, I am obviously in shock, but I'm waiting to hear what Virgil is going to eventually come forward and state. And then nothing has ever come from it since. That's the end of that. And then it's just something that, again, the ongoing, you know, what is it, Bad Faith podcast has just never addressed, nor has anyone really, outside of Virgil, just doesn't fucking exist as a public figure. So now Virgil's gone. And then physically and sexually assaulted her. And this is something that she hasn't been able to talk about, both because, you know, this is the other thing that I absolutely despise, is usually when someone comes forward with the story of sexual assault, you'll see already online all the usual fucking excuses are popping up, even though Lauren Southern happens to be on the far right. That doesn't matter to these people. Like, a lot of them are still doing the classic, like, if this happened, why didn't you report it to the police? If there's no police report, then obviously you're just doing this to sell the book, or something of the effect of like, well, if this actually happened, well, then clearly you've got evidence, right? Present the evidence. Where are all the logs? Where are the pictures? Where are the pictures? If Tommy Robinson uses cocaine, then obviously he would have been tested for cocaine, or maybe he would have been arrested at the airport, because that's what happens to every single, you know, privileged white person who travels. They definitely all get, you know, their comeuppance, or whatever the fuck excuses you want to make up. Again, it's one of those things where, like, no victim of sexual assault owes you shit. Like, who the fuck are you? All these people come forward and be like, well, where's the police report? I need to see it myself. I need to see the rape kit. Like, fuck off. Like, are you gonna, you could give those people every single piece of evidence in the world, and they're not looking for evidence, they're looking for holes. They're looking for a single thing that they can probe, and then all of a sudden be like, yeah, sorry, this doesn't line up. It says here that you apparently went up to his room. Did you do so willingly? No, he drugged her. Right, but it says here that you went up to the room at 9:07 p.m. when the statement shows that you wouldn't have left the club until it closed at 10:37 p.m. So your timeline doesn't line up. What does that tell you? Is it so you were lying? I don't know. Maybe if someone experienced extreme trauma from being physically or sexually assaulted and or drugged and raped, they might not have a perfect timeline of events. Does that all of a sudden invalidate any of their story? Like, it's just like from Diddy's trial to the Epstein trial to like every single version that these, and every single time this takes place, there's always the same chorus of gross ass disgusting humans who want to come forward and try and be like, oh yeah, she's lying, for the fame that comes from this. I can tell you as someone who fucking despises Lauren Southern. She is a fucking white supremacist ass racist who has been, like, honestly one of the leading public figures pushing for the fucking idea that the residential school system is in part a made up hoax, or that the fact that there are mass graves of children, you know, by these schools is a hoax. She's one of the people pushing that. She pushed that even after I had done things like go as far as consult the very people who run ground penetrating radar, the experts who run ground penetrating radar, who unanimously were like, no, there's not a situation here where there's an unbelievable, there are tests that can be false positives, or tests that can be, you know, rocks or other things that turn out to be something else. But on the whole, if you're looking at the way and the methodology in which these people are doing their work and how they've been done, no, this is not an example of just a massive misinterpretation of data. This is most likely a demonstration that there is, yes, a large graveyard next to the school. And even in the case of, hey, here is a news article that I found in which they have exhumed bodies and they have found child-sized skeletons. You got your bones, you weird-ass bone collectors. Here you go. Here's an example. Here's a report out of Saskatchewan in which, yes, they found a child-sized skeleton. And this is a case of which, like, are you going to let this go now? I mean, it's baffling to me that there are some people who need more than the thousands of testimony of people and survivors who underwent this. I mean, fucking please go watch Sugarcane, the Academy Award-nominated documentary that came out last year that shows you the testimonies, again, not only first-hand witnesses, but the people who investigated this and how they did it and how they pieced together so many of these stories, including things like baby incinerators, like the fact that these residential schools had incinerators where they would throw babies into them, and the first-hand witnesses who saw that happen are interviewed in that movie. Like, there's just such an overwhelming amount of shit in here that would be so grotesque for someone to think, here's where I can find holes in the story. But none of that matters in terms of whether or not you should also believe the most horrifying people imaginable if they've told you that they in fact had been drugged and raped by another horrifying person, right? Like, again, you cannot picture or think of a more imperfect victim in this case as Lauren fucking Southern, but that still makes Andrew Tate an absolute monster for what he allegedly did here. Like, for what Andrew Tate has once again been accused of by, once again, yet another woman. I don't know how many women it takes, because in these stories, like, Jesus, how many did Cosby need before people started, including women believing the victims? When it was like 10 women have come forward about Bill Cosby drugging and raping them. And some people were like, yeah, I mean, this has been a long-standing conspiracy. I think they're all trying to get the fame. How many of them became famous? Can you please point towards the people who previously had absolutely zero impact in terms of their lives and public figures, and then post-Cosby accusation became famous and are now doing the rounds and are now just household names? Name me them. Can you even name me the names of the victims themselves? Do you know that off the top of your head? The same thing with Harvey Weinstein. How many women had to come forward? It's over 25 with Trump, the president of the United States at this point. Over 25 women have accused him from everything from molestation to harassment to sexual assault to, yeah, just he raped me. Over 25 women at this point. How many does it take? How many does it take before a certain percentage of the population is going to be like, okay, maybe they're not all making it up. That is a lot of women. That's a lot. In the case of Cosby, over 50. It's a lot of women, and they all have similar stories, and none of them are famous from this, and a lot of them in some cases are having their lives destroyed by coming forward, and it does really seem like this entire system is just structured. 70. Jesus Christ. He's out of jail, by the way, Bill Cosby.
Don't let this happen to you. Go to serfscoffee.com to order the only end-to-end owned indigenous coffee company that delivers blood-free, conflict-free, and cruelty-free beans right to your door. 0% of people who drink serfscoffee.com have exploded spontaneously. By ordering right now, you get 10% off plus free shipping, and it's the best way to enjoy delicious coffee while not exploding. That's serfscoffee.com, serfscoffee.com.
Thank you so much for watching, everyone. This video wouldn't be at all possible without the financial support of all the people whose names you see on the screen right now. And if you want to unlock secret bonus episodes, content that we can't post anywhere else, or get the videos early before anyone else gets to see them, please go on to patreon.com/theserfs. For as little as $1, you can help support this channel and help make more videos like this possible. Our executive producers are Anna Loves Riley, Adrian McCarthy, Bobby Lasers, Cheryl Alvarez, Comrade Junkie, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Garrett Sandoval, Hagbard Celine, Jimmy Sombrero, Multimondi, Omni, Political Papi, Preston Kroll, Quiet 185, Richard Boehm, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Cernicus, Stellar Gwyn, Sebastian Demel, Tigwick, Trav, and Words Greenwood. And also, it wouldn't be possible without all the names you see on the screen right now. Again, if you want to help produce this content, it's only made possible through the funding of our patrons. Head on down to patreon.com/theserfs. That's patreon.com/theserfs.